Texas Podcast Massacre contains spoilers and adult language. For more horror, visit us at our website at texaspodcastmassacre.com.
Welcome to another episode of Texas Podcast Massacre, coming to you from Houston, Texas. I am your host, Nate, and with me, not today, or Mitch or Lisa. They have some work-related issues and will not be joining us today. It is a Nate solo episode, the first, potentially the last of its kind. But we wanted to give you guys an episode this week, and I already watched the movie, so this is happening. Feel free to tweet at TXPodMassacre, hashtag Team Basement, because it's Team Basement all the way, baby, this week. So anyway, because Mitch and Lisa are out, we're going to do a little bit different of an episode. This week's movie is 2020's The Call. Not to be confused with 2020's The Call, one of which is a Netflix movie that takes place in Korea, and one of them is a weird phone call movie with Lin Shaye and Tobin Bell, and that is the one that we are doing this week. This movie was a request on iTunes. And if you give us a 5-star review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, we will do the movie. This was a request from a longtime listener, Louise, and they originally picked another movie for us to do, and then messaged us and changed it because we hadn't got to it yet. And I almost wish they would have not changed it, because this movie is not super great, but we will get to that. I have to look up what movie it was going to be. Oh, it was going to be Incident in a Ghostland, which seems like a much better film. Louise, we love you, but I don't know. I think you might have overthought this one. I think you probably should have let it ride with the original pick on the review. But either way, 5-star review, we really appreciate it. So as it's just me this week, I'm going to go through this movie, and it's going to be a short episode because there's not a lot to go through on this one. And at the end, I'll do a little Nate-only segment. So without further ado, this week's movie of the week, The Call.
Hey, does everybody have a cookie?
I loved Edith more than life.
Edward, you are my fresh air.
I wished I was here to protect her.
So what are your friends, carnies?
Funny.
I was wondering when you get here.
I dragged the new kid to have some fun with us.
Where are we going?
It's an old tradition.
Move your arm!
Going somewhere?
Oh, I'm sorry, old hag.
You are lucky my husband is not here. He would shoot you. Now get out!
Hello, Christopher. I'm giving you a choice.
I'm sorry to hear about your wife.
She included you all in her will.
I don't want anything of hers.
Not even $100,000?
$100,000?
There's a phone upstairs with a number next to it. You call it. You stay on the phone for 1 minute. Then the money will be yours in the morning.
Who are we calling?
My wife. She had me bury a phone with her.
Going somewhere?
She wants to talk to you.
Where are you? When I made the call, it was like I was transported.
We're all gonna suffer.
Get on the phone. Devastating to her. What do you want?
Vengeance.
Okay, so The Call from that great trailer you just heard came out October 2nd, 2020. It is a 4.2 on IMDb, straight to video thriller that takes place in 1987. We have a lot of 80s movies recently that we've been doing. We got our Donnie Darko's. Valentine took place in the 80s. I think initially, Happy Birthday to Me in the 80s. We're all over the 80s all the time. This one was directed by Timothy Woodward Jr. He has done not a ton, but he did a movie called The Outsider. Not The Outsider with Jared Leto on Netflix. The Outsider with a person who's named Jonathan Patrick Fu as the main actor. So there's that. There is a movie, two movies they produced back to back. One called Weaponized, one called Decommissioned. I say you got to pick one. You're either decommissioned or weaponized. Figure it out. Figure it out, guy. And one movie that's just called Gnome Alone. That's one of the worst cover arts of all time. Please go on IMDb and look up Gnome Alone. Potential future episode featuring the late, great Vern Troyer. So that's our director. The main draw here is that there is a bunch of teens, and that's who you're primarily following. But really, we have two horror icons in the film playing the old couple that torments those teens. We have Lin Shaye from previous episodes, The Insidiouses, and many other movies, including one called Helen Keller vs. Nightwolves. She was in, which again, future episodes abounding here. She was in Ouija Origin of Evil. She was in Tales of Halloween, in Ouija, The Signal, a variety of horror movies of late, and she keeps it coming. So, look forward to her being. And I can't forget she was in previous episode Running Man also. But look forward to her being in about, I don't know, it looks like about 100 horror movies per year at this point. She's cranking out at least 5 or 6 minimum. And she was also, I guess, in Penny Dreadful City of Angels season, which was very bad from the first couple episodes I watched and then stopped. Then we got Mr. Saw, Would You Like to Play a Game? Tobin Bell himself. He is not quite on the same Lin Shaye path of being in a million movies a year. He's a little pickier. He's doing classics like 2019's Ice Cream in the Cupboard, which is a movie. He's been obviously in all the Saw movies. He's been in the Boogeyman movie as well. He has been in... I cannot believe I did not know this before, but I'm a huge Jet Li Black Mask fan. He was in one of the worst sequels in the history of Earth, Black Mask 2 City of Masks. And I had forgot that he was in that. That is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and one of the most let down movies I've ever seen also. So because it's me, highly recommended. He played the character Carl Storm in 2 Walker, Texas Ranger episodes, and I actually have seen those episodes with my wife, so I did remember that he was there, which is unfortunate because once you're in a 2-part Walker, Texas Ranger episode called The Wedding Part 1 and Part 2 as Carl Storm, you really can only go down from there. He was in a movie in 2015 that Mitch would love called Manson Family Vacation. So Mitch is all over the true crime Manson-ness stuff. And he's got a bunch of movies in post-production. One called Mouth to Mouth. It's about swimming, guys. I checked it. It could have been a lot worse. It's just about a kid who can't swim. So there's that. And the one that looks the most interesting is a movie called Ghost Killer. And I was like, oh, it's a movie, someone kills ghosts. No, the person's name is Kyle Ghost Killer. So there's that. Something to look forward to. This movie really doesn't have a whole lot going for it. Like I said, there's a movie called The Call. It's on Netflix. Came out in November of last year. Korean movie about a phone call. It's actually very similar to this movie, but probably a million times better. So if you want to watch one movie called The Call from like the 1 month span of October, November of 2020, that's probably the one to go with. But this movie is, where do I begin? This movie is something. The basic premise is that there's a new kid coming into town. He's clearly got a secret. This kid's got a secret for sure. And he's coming to a new town. First person he talks to is this girl, automatically has a crush on her. This is basically every 80s movie ever. And it takes place, like I said, in 1987. So we got all the 80s-ness. We got all the 80s things, guys showing off at a carnival. We got, just token vandalism playing in arcades. It's about as 80s as you can possibly get. The other thing that's a little different from the 80s tropes is that these kids are harassing this woman to death. So they keep harassing this woman they think killed one of the clique's sister. So there's the girl that the new guy likes, but she has a boyfriend. The boyfriend's a jockey douche, nerd, or jockey, guy. He's a total douche to the new nerd guy, but she likes him, so he's in the clique. And that jock's younger brother. This is a 4-person clique, real small. So the backstory is that the girl, and I could not remember the name. I'm looking it up. It's Tanya. Tanya's sister. I could not. Everyone is very disposable in this film. The only thing I remembered is that the Lin Shaye and Tobin Bell's last name was Cranston. Because I was like, I wish Bryan Cranston was in this movie. Only thing I remember about all the names. That's giving you a little taste about how much I like the movie. But anyway, they're harassing these people because Tanya's little sister a few years back had gone missing. And they thought that it was the Cranstons who ran a daycare in the town. Never came back from daycare, and they blamed her and would throw rocks at their windows and generally cause all kinds of vandalism and mayhem, trying to essentially bully them or get revenge for what they thought was a lack of the justice system finding them guilty. So that's where we start. And so, new kid comes into town. Hey, what better clique to join than the one that tries to harass old people? So that's... this kid was coming in with very minimal anything. He was just trying to get away, right? So that's who he signs up with. And, eventually, things, there's a confrontation. And Lin Shaye's like, hey, I'm not leaving. This place is my home. I had nothing to do with that. You people are terrible. I hate you. I'm staying alive to hate you, which... Man, they really must have done a number on this lady. I'm staying alive for my hate for you is not a sentence you ever want to hear. Her husband's out of town, and the confrontation is the last straw. These kids have harassed her and in their house for quite some time. Lin Shaye, right from the jump, hanging herself, and Tobin Bell's is at work or is on a trip of some kind. Comes home. She's hung, and you're like, well, I guess that's it. The movie's over in 20 minutes. Would have saved me a lot of time. This movie's only 97 minutes. Felt maybe double. It felt pretty long. The amount of long pauses between characters saying things like it was supposed to be important or meaningful or suspenseful in some way really added to the time, but only 97 minutes. So 20 minutes in or so, Lin Shaye is dead. And I'm like, all right, well, great, right? Of course, the movie's called The Call. She's got to be doing something with the phone. And, you know, they're like, oh, well, she killed herself. Good riddance. The lady who killed the little sister of one of the, you know, of Tanya and the clique is now gone. Good riddance, right? Well, then they get a call, or then they go over there. I think they're still harassing them. Tobin Bell's like, hey, you know, my wife's dead. You saw it in the newspaper. Remember when people read the newspapers and checked for information on all the pages? Yeah, so you're in her will. And they're like, what? Okay, I'm listening. There's money involved? Okay, I'm double listening. These kids are real dumb. You harassed a woman so much that she killed herself. And then you're just going to walk into their house with their husband. There's no way he's got revenge on the mind at all. Of course not. Anyway, all the kids go in because there's $100,000. You know, $100,000 in 1987 is quite a lot compared to today. I looked it up before, but if I look it up now, I think $100,000 is something right along the lines. Looks like it's right along the lines of $231,000 today. So you're offering like a 17-year-old kid $230K. They might listen. Not me. No amount of money. Why would you want to take, if you really thought that was true, why would you want to take the money of the person who killed your daughter? I have no clue. But they're in a small town. It's probably, you know, not a lot of options with this group, especially. I think their high school focus was rock throwing. So probably not getting into any great colleges. Maybe that's the reason. Anyway, they all go in this house. Tobin Bell is sufficiently sinister. It's, you know, not quite Jigsaw, maybe like Handsaw. He's Handsaw in this one. It's a little less complicated, a little more basic cuts to these kids, but he does his best handsaw. It's almost like, would you like to play a game? Essentially, the game is, hey, everyone separate from each other. One person at a time walk in this room and walk out the back door and no one sees you. And you stay on the phone for a minute on this phone call and you get the money. The fact that he said that, you know, you walk out the back door with the money and no one else sees you is one of the shadiest things I've ever heard. And I would have noped the fuck out right there. But the movie has to continue. So here we are. So anyway, obviously something with this call is going to be insidious, if you will. And it is. When they do the phone call, Lin Shaye has become just like the gremlin in Gremlins 2 that became electricity and could go through the phone. Lin Shaye's Gremlins 2'd it. She has died and can now communicate via that phone and warp you into you know, hell or death or whatever you want to call it. And not only that, but when you're dead, you can see other people's worst fears and the worst times of their life because that's what dead people can do. So she uses everyone's worst fear or most traumatic experience or their deepest secret to fuck with them and teleport them into her world. And, you know, hey, you know, should have read the fine print, but if you're teleported in that world, I don't know if the phone call counts for the money. And spoiler alert, the money doesn't mean anything. It was all a trap. But I was thinking about, okay, well, at the end, I get my money, right? Absolutely not. So first kid goes in. It's the Jock, older brother of there's the younger brother in the crew. And he goes in, and their dad is terrible. Their dad is trying to beat the shit out of him, coming home drunk. Looks very jacked. So this dad, I don't know, he's like a lumberjack. He's a drunker jack. He's something. It's not good. He looks real ripped and is beating the shit out of the older brother for standing up, and the younger brother's under the bed hiding. Then they get into Hell Realm, Lin Shaye Hell Realm, and then the dad's just chasing him. I mean, these chase sequences go on for so long. There's so little suspense. It's kind of brutal. And then, he gets kind of caught, trapped in that realm, and time for the next person to walk in on the call. You got the little brother. Same kind of scene. They saved money nicely by having the brothers because they used the same scene and the same dad actor to torment both of them, which was perfect. The younger brother gets tormented. A lot of belt swinging happening. A lot of chasing in like nondescript. And is hell like nondescript warehouses? It was very Saw-esque. This could have been like the room over from like Saw. Like they're trapped in this thing and like one warehouse over, like just a little alleyway between the warehouses, and then the next warehouse is where hell is located apparently. Or maybe Tobin Bell's like, oh yeah, remember what we used for like Saw 2? Yeah, let's just like use that warehouse again. Like I can get a deal on it. I know the guy who owns it. And the director was like, yes, I'm going from Gnome Alone to actually using full warehouses. I'm 100% in. So that's what hell looks like, is a giant weird warehouse. And the brother, is now in the world also. And then some of the most predictable twists in the history of the world start coming. So our main person, the new guy, Chris, he basically, goes in, and he's the nicest of the one. He just joined the clique. I didn't really want her to kill herself. So you're thinking, okay, he's maybe got a chance on this call, right? And so Lin Shaye calls him up, he's the third one, and it's just like, hey, I know you're like the new guy. What's up, new guy? Like you never really tormented me that much. And then, but I know you were a secret. He had a secret. He had a pregnant girlfriend in his previous town. He didn't want to keep the baby. She did. He's like, we got to deal with this. He's like, no, we don't. He's like, I'm already showing. It's fine. And then she drives away angry and gets in a massive car accident. And then you're like, oh no, that something bad happened to him, and he wanted to leave. He wanted to move towns. Makes total sense, right? Then you find out later that not only did he leave, but he left her and she was alive, and then she ended up dying to get out of his responsibilities, which was not great. So everyone's essentially terrible in this movie. So there's that. And then the girl goes in, and one of the most predictable twists of all time was that the sister, Tanya, the older sister of your younger sister that went missing, was walking back from daycare on a bridge and just decided, hey, everyone likes you more. I'm going to hit you in the head with a rock and kill you. And one of the stupidest twist is not even, it was like a gentle curve, barely a gentle curve. And she killed her sister. I mean, it was probably the least build up for like a family kill I've ever seen, ever. So does the kid die? Absolutely, yes. It was very unearned and very terrible, and it was not great. It was not great at all. And so, so basically all these kids they're not really, none of the kids are particularly terrible other than tormenting this woman, I guess. So I take it back. They're all terrible. But at least, I guess the one kid panicked when his pregnant girlfriend had crashed. Everyone else's things seemed fairly premeditated. And the little brother was kind of just tagging along. So that's kind of sad. He was really messed up by his dad, and then lesser so by his older brother. But that one was a little sad when he got taken over and then became a blood zombie, like a blood coming out of his mouth, but like a weird zombie, like chasing the main character guy through the hell warehouse. That was something for some reason. It wasn't the best. So then obviously, the main guy ends up getting out. His pregnant girlfriend was also in the hell warehouse and was like, hey, you can get out the way you came in. And he's like, oh, I never thought about that. I was just getting chased around in weird hell warehouse with weird lighting. So I'm going to try to get out. And then did. So he gets out, tries to warn the other girl. There's a confrontation. Tobin Bell ends up getting shot. Lin Shaye can make fake TV programs happen to try to convince Tanya to shoot, or that the other guy had a gun. The main character, his name's Chris. Just call him main character. And that lasted for 3 seconds and was just absolutely worthless. Tobin Bell ends up getting shot and he's dead also. So there's that. It's just so bad. I did not care for this. I did not care for it at all. And so anyway, the lady, they thought that she was maybe a witch. She had tried to kill, the younger sister. She didn't, but I guess they were right. She was a witch. She could talk to people that were dead, could kill herself and then do phone stuff. You think that, I don't know. It's just a stupid phone. It's like a basic phone. There's not even anything fun about it. And the door to get into the room has no handle. I mean, it's just like the least inviting thing. I don't care how much money they offer me. Never going in there. Maybe if it was like, hey, here's like 1,000 GME stock. I don't know if GME was around in 1987, but if it was, maybe then. I don't know. Yeah. So Tanya killed her little sister. Chris had let her kind of like pregnant girlfriend kind of die, or at least caused her to go crazy. They get, so then Chris and Tanya, they get the throw off with the fake TV thing was the last 2 seconds. They try to go outside, they kind of they get separated. She's trapped in the room with the phone. Of course, the door trans magically opens and closes her in. She's gone. Basically, Lin Shaye can make TV programs happen. There's no way you're getting out of this house. You kill the husband. There's no way you're getting out. Tanya goes in. She's gone. The two brothers are both gone. They're trapped in the hell area with their dad chasing them forever, which seems like that would suck and be a pretty fitting hell. Chris, feels bad because of what he did, and he had to relive it. And so he's like, well, I caused that to happen. So, yep, I'm just going to walk back in and just go to hell again and pick up the phone. It was bad. That was it. That is the movie. It is not the best thing. Louise, I don't know what. Let us know, Louise. Contact us again. Did you watch this before you recommended it? And if so, did you like it? And please tell me why. I would love to hear it. This movie is a non-stellar 4.2 on IMDb. I do not think it is universally liked in any way, but I'd love to know what you liked about it because it's something. It is something. So that's the movie. Hell is our mistakes and also a warehouse in the 80s. So there's that. That is that's what hell is, I guess. I recommend again watching the Netflix Korean film The Call. It uses a phone call not to send you to hell, but to talk back to the past. And I believe the past might have been in the 90s on that one. Maybe the early 2000s or late 90s. So not quite the 80s on that one, but pretty damn close. So it's a time travel phone call. I guess it's like that Keanu Reeves. What is it? The Glass House or Lake House or something. I think Glass House is Lily Sobieski. I think it's the Lake House. So it's like instead of a mailbox, it is a phone call with an insane person who is very desperate. And whose mom is a shaman. Again, a much better movie. So highly recommend watching that. Do not recommend watching The Call. If I had to give it a score, and I wrote down a score, but I don't even know if I think it might be too high. This movie reminded me most probably of The Shed. This is Shed-esque. Another request that we got a while back. I don't know. The Shed, The Call, maybe the with one word is our downfall. I'm not sure. Is there a movie with the in something that is good that we've done? I'm not sure. But I guess The Witch. Is really good. The Suckling. Oh my God. There's so many bad ones. They're mostly bad. Anyway, I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 10 rings. It is not good. There's a lot of filler conversation with teens that feels like it was written by a 56-year-old. So it's not great. Even that 56-year-old might have been around the right age in 1987. It did not work. It did not work at all. Very stilted dialogue. The young kids did their best-ish, but were not super great. And the twists you could see coming like 5 miles away. So, yeah, I would probably not recommend this one. And mercifully, I think Mitch and Lisa are going to be out on or miss this one. Mercifully, they'll be back next week. But yeah, I think they dodged a bullet. And I think it was a good call that they didn't end up watching it because they had work stuff. So yeah, that's the movie. Since it's just me, I'm gonna go through some stuff that only I like, and Mitch isn't here. Suck it. Again, hashtag Team Basement on everything on social media. Send messages to Mitch telling him that basements are the best. And tell him that Nate is the best host and it should be solo the whole time. I'm just kidding. Don't do that because this is very weird recording an episode all by myself. And if it's terrible, don't worry. People will be back next week, mercifully, to answer the podcast phone. And I feel like now I'm in hell, but we can escape back to the normal hosting duties next week. Another thing I want to talk about, since again it's just me, is this is strange, but I want to talk about my Blu-ray collection. Mitch has been talking about my collection of Blu-rays and if I have the movies or not, and. When the pandemic started, a lot of people, I think, were just scrolling through Netflix, scrolling through Hulu, Amazon Prime, HBO, whatever you got, and watching everything they could, especially people without kids. Since I have a kid and my work was really crazy, I didn't watch as many movies actually during the pandemic as I would have thought. Normally, I can watch, depending on what was going on, 2, 3, 4 movies in a day on a weekend. If nothing was going on and maybe my wife was working. So that would be no problem for me. So normally I'd watch a lot of movies. So of course I picked the absolute worst time to want to watch more movies and buy movies, which has been the last month or two when I have a brand new baby. But you know what? Maybe not the best timing, but I wanted to go over some of the recent things I bought, and I usually only buy a Blu-ray if it has great special features, and or is one of the all-time classic movies. that I've ever seen. And so I want to give you guys some recommendations, maybe some things that we won't actually do on the podcast, some older films that I would definitely recommend because they have great special features and are all-time classics. One movie that I have to recommend, and I just bought, is The Descent. Hopefully a future episode. The Descent is one of my favorite horror movies of the 2000s, for sure. It is fantastic, and there is a cut of the Blu-ray. It's got an unrated cut, so it's got even more viscera than the normal one, and a really interesting story about a group of female friends who go cave spelunking. Not a normal setup for a horror film. The Blu-ray has a director commentary in it with both the crew and the cast, and I liked both commentaries on there. And you get to see some behind the scenes of them actually cave spelunking and how to shoot something in caves. Spoiler alert, it's real hard. So definitely check out a Blu-ray recommendation from me, The Descent, and it is actually very cheap right now to buy. So that's my first recommendation. Second recommendation is Pan's Labyrinth. There's a Criterion Collection, Pan's Labyrinth. Guillermo del Toro is a well-known and I don't know if I can say universally beloved director, but I beloved him. And the Criterion Collection version of Pan's Labyrinth, first of all, the cover is amazing. And it has audio commentary from Del Toro. It's got new interviews, a making of documentary, and it has like these kind of cool animated comics and a bunch of like upgraded visuals and sound. That sounds really cool. So I would check that one out as well. There was briefly a buy two get one free sale on Amazon that I definitely took advantage of for way more than I should have. But definitely good stuff there. And the last one I wanted to talk about, we're actually going to talk about one of these. We're actually going to talk about predators in the future. So I'll give you a little heads up on next month. We might be talking about predators in some way or another. But the Predator 3 movie collection I just picked up, and you get a lot of Predator. So if you like Predator, great. If not, you get Predator 1, Predator 2, and Predators. We did the fourth Predator movie as part of our podcast many moons ago, and it was kind of a really dumb action movie. I really did not think it was super great, but it's kind of it's more if you think of it more of a mindless action movie, you'll be a lot happier with what you get than if you're looking for anything like kind of horror in any way at that point. In the original one, there's definitely obviously a lot of action stuff, but there's also the Predators are a lot scarier. So you got Predator 1, Predator 2, and Predators. If you want to see Topher Grace be an evil person, this is probably your only chance in movies. I don't know if Topher Grace is in a lot of stuff anymore, but he's usually like the nerdy, weird dude. He's not usually the serial murderer. So if you want to see Topher Grace from that 70s show be a killer, then check that out. Predators was directed by Nimrod Antal. Everyone knows I'm a huge Hungary fan, just generally, and Nimrod Antal is one of the best or most famous Hungarian directors. He directed Predators. Obviously, he directed the Whiskey Bandit, which is a real film with a Hungarian thief who used to drink whiskey before he robbed banks. I guess that's as good a time as any to rob banks is on whiskey. But he directed the all-time classic movie Control, which takes place entirely in the Budapest metro, and it kind of has flashes of, but it came out before Fight Club. So if you kind of like Fight Club, if you want to see a kind of Hungarian underground metro Fight Club, I can highly recommend that one. And he also directed, I believe his first U.S. movie was the Luke Wilson vehicle Vacancy, which was a horror film where they're stranded at a motel. So yeah, those are my recommendations and new Blu-ray purchases that I have. There are many more, but I will maybe spread them out across episodes and as they come in. Let me know what stuff that you buy. Do you guys buy Blu-rays? Do you listen to the director commentary? Am I the only one? They've kind of stopped doing it for a lot of new releases, which I think is lame. But let me know in the comments wherever you listen to this podcast episode. That is it for this episode of Texas Podcast Massacre. The solo, this is the first episode in the podcast Natronian collection for Texas Podcast Massacre, and most likely or potentially the last. But if you're still listening, thanks for listening. Tweet us at TXPodMassacre. Send us an email, TexasPodcastMassacre@gmail.com. Some people did send some emails in saying, why do you buy Blu-rays? Which I thought was hilarious. I buy Blu-rays because they have all special features on them. So there you go. And streaming services oftentimes don't have your favorite movies or they go away. So it's a good way to buy those and have them. If you buy them digitally, which I also buy things digitally, you can have them, but you have to sign into streaming services. Sometimes you can't even download them. It's kind of lame. So anyway, so there's that. So keep those emails coming. And the more Blu-ray emails that we get, which would probably bother Mitch, the better. So please send some emails, Facebook Messenger messages, DMs, and Twitter, things on Instagram, anything you can on Blu-rays, and I will laugh hysterically. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or any of the other podcast platforms. If it's another platform, you might have to let us know that you did it, but we will definitely get to your movie. Look, I watched The Call. It is only 1/3 of the hosts, but someone watched The Call because it was a 5-star review. We will do that for basically any movie. Still waiting on him. I almost would have rather watched Human Centipede than this. It got close at a time. It's not great when the pauses between the dialogue is so long. You have time to think about, is Human Centipede a better option? Not the best. But again, we'll watch it no matter what. So give us those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts or other platforms, and we will get to your movie. We got one more episode coming up in March, and then we have a themed April month coming very quickly. Like I said, Predators might be involved. Spoiler alert, they will be. And we'll be letting everyone know on that soon. And there will be potentially a movie to vote on social media for what's the 4th movie that we do for that month. So stay tuned for that. And that's it for this episode of Texas Podcast Massacre. I'm your host, Nate, and the only one here. It is very lonely. And just keep telling yourself it's only a phone call and it's only a movie. Good night.